I never imagined that a simple silk dress could unravel my entire world, but there it was, draped over her like a stolen secret. In the arms of the man I was supposed to marry. It was a crisp autumn evening, the kind where the leaves whispered underfoot, and the air carried the faint scent of wood smoke from neighborhood chimneys. I had just pulled into the driveway of our cozy little bungalow, my hands still tingling from the cold steering wheel after a long shift at the bookstore. Mark's car was there, parked neatly, as always. But something felt off. The porch light was dimmed, and the curtains were drawn tighter than usual. I remember pausing at the door, key in hand, hearing muffled laughter from inside. Not just any laughter, hers, Sarah's. My best friend since college. The one who'd been like a sister to me through every heartbreak and triumph. I pushed the door open quietly, not wanting to startle them if they were just chatting. The living room was bathed in the soft glow of the lamp, casting long shadows across the hardwood floors we'd refinished together last summer. And there they were, Mark on the couch, his arm casually around her shoulders, and Sarah nestled against him, wearing my dress. The emerald green silk, one-eyed, lent her for her cousin's wedding last weekend. It hugged her figure, just as it did mine, but seeing it on her now, in this intimate setting, made my stomach twist. She looked up first, her eyes widening for a split second before she flashed that bright, innocent smile. "Oh hey, Lena, we were just waiting for you." Mark was helping me with this, zipperets stuck again. Mark pulled away quickly, his face flushing as he stood. "Yeah, babe. Sarah dropped by to return the dress, but it got caught. Thought we'd surprise you with dinner." He gestured to the kitchen, where I could smell Italian takeout warming in the oven. But his voice had that slight tremor, the one he got when he was covering for a white lie, like forgetting to pick up groceries. I forced a smile, my heart pounding in my ears like a distant drum. "That's sweet. Let me help with that zipper." As I approached, the fabric whispered against her skin, and I caught a whiff of her perfume, mixed with his cologne, the same one I'd bought him for his birthday. It was a small thing, but it planted a seed of doubt that would grow into something I couldn't ignore. That night, as we ate spaghetti around the table, the conversation flowed like always, Sarah teasing Mark about his terrible golf swing, me laughing along, sharing stories from work. But underneath, I felt a quiet fracture. Why hadn't she changed out of the dress before coming over? Why did Mark's hand brush hers when passing the bread? I pushed it down, telling myself I was being paranoid. After all, Sarah had been my rock for years, and Mark, he was the steady one, the man who'd proposed under the stars last spring, promising forever. But as I lay in bed later, staring at the ceiling while Mark snored softly beside me, that image replayed, the dress, the laughter, the closeness. It was the beginning of the unraveling, though I didn't know it yet. Looking back, my life before that evening had been a tapestry of simple joys and quiet routines, woven together with the people I trusted most. I was Lena Thompson, 32 years old, living in a small town just outside Seattle where the rain was a constant companion and the coffee was always strong. I'd grown up in a modest family. My parents ran a local bakery until Dad's heart gave out 5 years ago, leaving Mom to manage it with my younger brother's help. I worked at Evergreen Books, a charming indie store filled with the musty scent of old pages and the hum of quiet readers. It wasn't glamorous, but it suited me. I loved recommending novels that could transport someone from their troubles, much like the stories I'd escape into as a kid. Mark and I met 3 years ago at a mutual friend's barbecue. He was the tall, broad-shouldered type, with kind hazel eyes, and a laugh that could fill a room. He worked as a project manager for a construction firm, always coming home with dirt under his nails, and stories about building homes for families. "One day, it'll be ours," he'd say, kissing my forehead. We weren't wealthy, but we had plans: a wedding in the fall, maybe a house with a yard for the kids we dreamed about. Our days were predictable in the best way. Mornings with coffee on the porch, him packing my lunch with a silly note inside. Evenings cooking together while jazz played softly from the radio. And then there was Sarah, my best friend, my confidant. We'd bonded in freshman year over shared dorm room disasters and late-night study sessions. She was the vibrant one, curly auburn hair, an infectious energy that lit up any gathering. Single after a messy breakup last year, she'd leaned on me a lot, and I'd been happy to lend her everything from advice to that green dress. "You're a lifesaver, Lena," she'd said when she borrowed it, hugging me tight. "I promise I'll treat it like my own." We'd spent countless girls' nights gossiping over wine, her complaining about dating apps while I gushed about Mark. She adored him too, or so I thought, always saying he was one of the good ones. Our trio had become a comfortable unit. Barbecues, movie nights, even a road trip to the coast last summer where we laughed until our sides hurt. Life felt solid, like the foundation of the houses Mark built. Mom would call every Sunday, her voice warm through the phone, asking about wedding plans. "Don't forget to invite Aunt Clara, she makes the best pies." My brother, Jake, would tease me about becoming an old married lady, but there was pride in his tone. Work was steady. My boss, Mrs. Harlow, trusted me with inventory and even let me host book clubs. Evenings often ended with Mark and me on the couch, his head in my lap as I read aloud from whatever novel I was into. The air would smell of chamomile tea, and his steady breathing would lull me into contentment. It was ordinary, but it was ours. Yet, even in those peaceful days, there were tiny threads I didn't notice pulling loose. Sarah had been spending more time at our place lately, escaping her lonely apartment. She'd say Mark didn't mind. He enjoyed her company, calling her the fun one in our group. I'd catch them sharing inside jokes from times I'd been at work, but I'd brush it off. Friends do that, right? And the dress. I'd bought it on a whim for a gala fundraiser last year, the silk cool against my skin, making me feel elegant and desired. Lending it to Sarah felt like sharing a piece of myself. Little did I know, she was about to wear it to claim something far more precious. The first real clue came a week after that awkward evening. It was a rainy Tuesday, the kind where the sky hangs low and gray, mirroring the unease starting to settle in my chest. I was at work, shelving new arrivals in the romance section. Ironic. Looking back, when my phone buzzed with a text from Sarah, "Hey girl, lunch today. Miss our chats." I smiled, typing back quickly. We met at our usual spot, a cozy cafe downtown, with the aroma of fresh-baked scones and steaming lattes. She arrived a bit late, her cheeks flushed, wearing a scarf I didn't recognize. "Sorry, traffic was a nightmare," she said, sliding into the booth. We ordered our favorites, me, a turkey club. Her, the Caesar salad, and caught up. But something was different. Her eyes darted away when I asked about her weekend. "Oh, nothing much. Just Netflix and chill." She laughed, but it sounded forced, like wind chimes in a storm. Then, as she reached for her water, I noticed a faint mark on her neck, a hickey, poorly concealed by makeup. My heart skipped. "Sarah, what's that?" I teased lightly, trying to keep it casual. She touched it self-consciously. "Oh, this mosquito bite from the park. Itchy as hell." But her voice had that high pitch she used when fibbing, like the time she forgot to return my earrings. I let it go, but as we talked, she kept checking her phone, smiling at messages she wouldn't share. "Work stuff," she muttered. When the bill came, she insisted on paying, which was unusual. She was always tight on cash from her freelance graphic design gigs. Walking back to my car, the rain pattering on my umbrella, I felt a nagging pull. Why the secrecy? That evening, Mark was home late, blaming a sight delay. He kissed me hello, but his lips felt distant, and I smelled a trace of perfume on his collar, not mine, but familiar. Sarah's. Over the next few days, the suspicions mounted like gathering clouds. Sarah canceled our yoga class, saying she was swamped, but I saw her car parked near Mark's office when I drove by on an errand. Coincidence, I told myself. Then, a forgotten receipt in Mark's pocket from a coffee shop we never visited together, dated the same day as her work stuff. I confronted him gently over dinner, the steam from our stir-fry rising between us. Mark, is everything okay? You've been distant. He looked up, fork paused. What? No, babe, just stressed with the Henderson project. Why? His eyes held mine, but there was a flicker, a hesitation. I dropped it, not wanting to seem insecure. But sleep evaded me that night, the clock ticking relentlessly in the silence. I replayed moments, her in my dress, their shared glances, the unexplained absences. Was I imagining it? Sarah had been through so much, her ex had cheated on her. She'd sworn off men for months. And Mark, he was loyal, wasn't he? The man who'd held me through my dad's funeral, whispering promises of forever. Yet the doubt gnawed, quiet but insistent, like the drip of a leaky faucet in the dark. The real fracture came on a Saturday afternoon 2 weeks later, the kind of gray November day where the light fades early and the house feels too quiet even with people in it. I'd taken the day off work, telling myself I needed to catch up on laundry and maybe bake the cinnamon rolls. Mom always said, fixed everything. Mark had kissed me goodbye that morning, saying he had to run to the office for a quick site inspection. Back by lunch, he promised, squeezing my hand. Sarah texted around 10. Can I swing by? Need to borrow your curling iron, mine died mid-hair. I said yes, without thinking. She was always borrowing things. It was our rhythm. She arrived just after 11, hair half curled, wearing jeans and a soft gray sweater that looked new. No makeup, which was unusual for her. She liked to look put together, even on lazy days. I let her in. The cold air rushing past her as she hugged me. Her arms felt stiff, shorter than usual. You okay? I asked, stepping back. She laughed too quickly, just tired. Dating apps are exhausting. She followed me upstairs to the bedroom, where my vanity sat against the window overlooking the backyard maple, its leaves now a dull bronze carpet on the grass. While she plugged in the curling iron, I sat on the bed, folding towels, watching her in the mirror. She kept glancing at her phone, then at the doorway, as if expecting someone. Mark's not here, I said lightly. He's at work. Her shoulders relaxed a fraction. Oh, right. Forgot. But then the curling iron beeped ready, and she started on her hair, humming softly. That's when I saw it. On the nightstand, half hidden under a paperback, was Mark's watch. The black-faced one he always wore to work. The one he'd taken off last night, because the clasp was pinching. I stared at it. My pulse thickened in my throat. Sarah, I said, voice steady, even though my hands weren't. Why is Mark's watch here? She froze, mid-curl, the iron hovering near her cheek. Then she turned slowly, eyes wide and glassy. He left it here the other night. When he helped me with that stupid light fixture in my bathroom. Remember I told you it flickered? I hadn't remembered. She'd never mentioned Mark fixing anything at her place. He said he'd pick it up next time he was over, she added, too fast. I forgot to tell you. The room smelled suddenly of burnt hair and the vanilla candle I'd lit earlier. I stood up. He was never at your apartment this week. He's been home every night. My voice cracked on the last word. Sarah set the curling iron down carefully, like it might explode. Lena, listen. Don't. I walked to the nightstand, picked up the watch. Still warm from someone's skin. I turned it over. The back was engraved with our initials and the date he proposed. My thumb traced the letters. How long? I asked quietly. She didn't answer right away, just looked at the floor, tears already spilling. 3 months, she whispered. It wasn't planned, it just happened. 3 months. The number landed like a stone in deep water. 3 months of late nights, he blamed on deadlines. 3 months of her girls' nights that ended early. 3 months of me smiling, planning a wedding, while I felt my knees buckle. I sat hard on the edge of the bed, in our house. My voice sounded far away, like it belonged to someone else. Sometimes, she said, so small, I almost didn't hear it. Mostly at my place, but, yeah, sometimes here. When you were closing at the store. The betrayal wasn't just the act, it was the casualness of it. The way they'd used the spaces I'd made safe. My kitchen table, my couch, my bed. I thought of the green dress again, how she'd worn it that first night I walked in on them, laughing. Had she worn it for him? Had she stood in front of my mirror, adjusting the straps, knowing exactly what she was doing? I looked at her, really looked. The woman I'd cried with after her mother's funeral. The one who'd driven for hours to sit with me the night Dad died. The one who'd helped me pick out my engagement ring, because Mark wanted it to be a surprise. Her face was crumpled now, mascara streaking, but I couldn't find the friend in it anymore. Why? The question came out raw. Why him? Why me? She sank onto the vanity stool, hands twisting in her lap. I was lonely, Lena, after Ryan. I didn't know how to be alone, and Mark, he listened. He made me feel seen. You were always working, always tired. He was just there. I laughed, a dry, broken sound. So you took him. Because I was tired. I didn't mean to hurt you. I swear. I kept telling myself to stop, but then, stop. I held up a hand. Don't make it sound romantic. Don't make it sound inevitable. You chose this. Every single time. Silence stretched between us, thick and suffocating. Outside, a car door slammed Mark's truck. My heart lurched. Sarah's eyes flew to the window. He doesn't know I'm here, she whispered. He thinks I'm running errands. Of course he did. I stood up slowly, legs unsteady. Get out, Lena, please, get out. She grabbed her purse, the curling iron still hot on the vanity. She didn't unplug it. Just hurried past me, head down, shoulders shaking. I heard the front door open, then close softly like she was trying not to make a scene. A moment later, Mark's key turned in the lock. Babe, I'm home early, brought Ty. His voice was bright, normal. The same voice that used to make my chest warm. Now it made me want to scream. I walked downstairs, still holding his watch like evidence. He was in the kitchen, setting bags on the counter, humming. When he saw me, his smile faltered. Hey, you okay? I held up the watch. You left this at Sarah's. Or maybe here. Hard to keep track, I guess. The color drained from his face. He opened his mouth, closed it. No quick excuse this time. Just silence. And in that silence, everything ended. He didn't deny it. That was the part that hurt most, not the betrayal itself, but how quickly the mask fell away. Mark just stood there in our kitchen, plastic bags of pad thai still dangling from his fingers, the steam inside them slowly dying. The fluorescent light above the sink buzzed faintly, the same sound it always made when the bulb was about to go. I used to joke we should replace it before it gave up on us. Now, it felt like an omen. I'm sorry, he said finally. The words came out flat, rehearsed, like he'd practiced them in the truck on the way home. I didn't want you to find out like this. Like this, I echoed. My voice was calm to calm. The kind of calm that comes right before something inside you shatters permanently. You mean you wanted to keep lying until the wedding? Until I was wearing white and promising forever while you texted her behind my back? He set the bags down carefully, as if sudden movement might set me off. It wasn't like that. It wasn't planned. Things just got complicated. Complicated. I repeated the word, like tasting something sour. That's what you call sleeping with my best friend. Complicated. He rubbed the back of his neck, the same gesture he made when he was caught forgetting our anniversary, or when a job went over budget. Sarah was going through a rough time after Ryan. She needed someone to talk to. I was just there. You were there, I said slowly, in her bed, in our bed, wearing nothing but guilt and excuses. His eyes dropped to the floor. I know I messed up, badly. I hate myself for it. Then why keep doing it? The question came out sharper than I intended. 3 months, Mark. 3 months of looking me in the eye every morning, kissing me goodbye, planning our future while you were building something else behind my back. How do you do that? He didn't answer right away, just leaned against the counter, arms crossed, tight over his chest, like he was holding himself together. I told myself it would stop. Every time I left her place, I swore it was the last. But then she'd text, or I'd see her crying at the bar after work, and, I don't know. I got weak. Weak. The word landed like a slap. All those nights I'd waited up for him, reheating dinner, worrying he was working too hard. All the times I'd told myself his distance was just stress from the new project. I'd blamed the long hours, the economy, even myself for not being fun enough lately. Never once did I blame the truth staring me in the face. I walked to the sink, turned on the faucet just to have something to do with my hands. The water ran cold, then warm. I watched it swirl down the drain. Did you love her? The question hung there, fragile and ugly. I didn't want the answer, but I needed it. Mark exhaled long and slow. No, not like I love you. I laughed a short, bitter sound that startled us both. Don't say you love me. Not now. I do, he insisted, stepping closer. This thing with Sarit was stupid. Selfish. It didn't mean anything deep. It was just escape. Escape, I whispered. From me. No. From everything. Work, pressure, the wedding planning, feeling like I had to be perfect all the time. He reached for my arm. I flinched back so hard, my elbow hit the cabinet door. Don't touch me. He froze, hand hovering in midair, then dropped it. Lena, please. We can fix this. Couples counseling. Time apart, if you need it. I'll do whatever. Stop. I turned off the tap. The sudden silence was deafening. You don't get to decide how we fix this. You broke it. You and her. Together. I looked around the kitchenette, the mismatched mugs we'd collected from every road trip, the spice rack he'd built me for my birthday, the calendar on the wall still showing last month because neither of us had flipped it. Everything familiar. Everything poisoned now. I want you to leave, I said quietly. His face crumpled. Tonight. Yes, tonight. Pack a bag. Go to your brother's. Or a hotel. I don't care. Just go. Lena, go. He stood there a long moment, eyes searching mine for some crack, some sign I didn't mean it. I gave him nothing. Finally, he nodded once, turned, and walked upstairs. I heard drawers opening, the zipper of his duffel, footsteps on the creaky third step he always avoided. Then he came back down, with the bag slung over his shoulder and his keys in hand. At the door, he paused. I'll call you tomorrow. We need to talk, really talk. I didn't answer. He left. The door clicked shut with that soft finality I'd always hated. I stood in the hallway listening to his truck start, the low rumble fading down the street until the neighborhood swallowed it whole. Then the house was quiet. Too quiet. I sank to the floor right there, back against the wall, knees pulled to my chest. The tiles were cold through my jeans. I cried, not loud, not dramatic. Just silent, steady tears that soaked the collar of my sweater. I cried for the future I'd lost, for the friend I'd trusted, for the man I'd chosen. I cried for the version of myself who still believed love was simple. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time lost shape. At some point I stood, legs numb, and walked upstairs. The bedroom smelled faintly of Sarah's curling iron-burnt hair and vanilla. His side of the closet was half empty, hangers dangling like broken promises. I opened the drawer where he kept his cufflinks, and found the small velvet box with my engagement ring still inside. He hadn't worn it to work lately, said it caught on his gloves. I slipped it onto my finger anyway. It felt heavy, foreign. I didn't sleep that night. Just sat on the bed in the dark, replaying every moment I should have seen coming. The late texts, the sudden interest in her problems, the way he'd smile at his phone and then catch himself. Small signs I'd dismissed because love makes you blind, or maybe because I didn't want to see. By morning, the rain had started again, tapping insistently against the windows like it wanted in. I made coffee out of habit, stood at the counter watching the steam rise, and decided one thing with perfect clarity. I wasn't going to fall apart. Not for him, not for her. They didn't get to keep that power. The first few days after Mark left were a blur of silence and small, mechanical tasks. I opened the bookstore at 8 sharp every morning, smiled at customers, recommended cozy mysteries to retirees and spicy romances to college girls, all while feeling like I was moving underwater. The bell above the door chimed too loudly. The scent of fresh coffee from the back room turned my stomach. Mrs. Harlow noticed right away, she always did. On the third day, she pulled me into the tiny office behind the counter, sat me down in the creaky chair, and handed me a mug of chamomile without asking. "You don't have to talk," she said, her voice soft but firm, the way she spoke when restocking the poetry section. "But you don't have to pretend either." I stared into the tea until the steam blurred my vision. He cheated, with Sarah. She didn't gasp or offer platitudes, just nodded once, slowly. "I'm sorry, sweetheart. That kind of wound takes time." I didn't cry then. The tears had dried up somewhere between the night he left and the morning I woke up alone in a bed that still smelled faintly of his aftershave. Instead, I felt hollow, like someone had scooped out everything soft and left only the shell. I changed the locks that weekend. Not out of spite. Mark still had a keyboard, because every time I heard a car slow in front of the house, my heart lurched, expecting his truck. I didn't want to keep waiting. Jake came over to help, my little brother who'd always been more protector than protected. He didn't say much while he worked, just handed me screws, tested the deadbolt, made sure the back door latched properly. When we finished, he pulled me into one of his bear hugs, the kind that smelled like motor oil and the mint gum he chewed constantly. "You deserve better than both of them," he said against my hair. "And if you want me to go break his knees, just say the word." I laughed for the first time in days. It hurt, but it was real. Tempting. But no. I need to do this clean. Mom called every evening. She didn't pry, just talked about ordinary things. The new sourdough recipe she was testing. How the neighbor's cat kept stealing her garden gloves. How she missed Dad's bad jokes. Sometimes, she'd pause and say quietly, I'm here when you're ready. I wasn't ready yet, but knowing she was waiting helped more than any pep talk could. Sarah tried to reach me once. A long text the day after the bedroom confrontation. Lena, I know you hate me right now, and I don't blame you. I hate me too. I deleted his number. I blocked him. I'm moving to my sister's in Portland next month. I can't stay here, seeing reminders of what I did. I'm so sorry. For everything. If you ever want to talk, even to scream at me, I'll listen. I owe you that much. I read it twice, thumb hovering over the reply button. Then, I deleted the message. Not out of anger, though the anger was still there, simmering, but because I realized I had nothing left to say to her. The friendship had died somewhere between the green dress and the watch on the nightstand. Trying to resurrect it would only hurt more. Mark called the next Tuesday. I let it go to voicemail. His voice on the recording was rough, like he hadn't slept. Lena, I know you don't want to hear from me. I just need you to know I'm staying at my brother's. I've started seeing a therapist alone, not couples. I'm trying to understand why I did this. I don't expect forgiveness. I'm sorry, and I miss you. I'll give you space. But if you ever want to talk, I'm here. I saved the message. Not to listen again, but because deleting it felt too final. I wasn't sure what final looked like yet. The public parts started slowly, the way gossip does in a small town. A mutual friend from our old trivia team asked if everything was okay because Mark hadn't shown up to game night. Another coworker at the bookstore mentioned seeing Sarah loading boxes into her car with red, puffy eyes. Then Jake, bless his protective big-mouthed heart, let it slip to our cousin Tara over Sunday dinner at Mom's. Tara, who never met a secret she could keep, told her best friend, who told her hairdresser, who happened to cut Mrs. Larson's hair, the same Mrs. Larson who organized the town's holiday market and knew everyone. By the following weekend, the whispers had reached critical mass. I found out how bad it was when I went to pick up flour at the corner market. Mr. Patel, who'd known me since I was 10, and sneaking candy bars, looked at me with such gentle pity that I almost turned around and left. Lena, dear, he said quietly while ringing me up, if you need anything extra hours, a place to sit and breathe, just ask. I managed a small smile. Thanks, Mr. P. I'm okay, but I wasn't, not really. The confrontation happened at the holiday market the next Saturday. The square was strung with white lights, booths selling wreaths and handmade ornaments, carolers in Victorian costumes. I'd gone because Mom insisted, fresh air will do you good, and because hiding forever wasn't an option. I saw them both at the same time. Mark was at the coffee stand, buying 2 lattes. Sarah stood a few booths away, pretending to examine knitted scarves, but her eyes kept flicking toward him. They hadn't seen me yet. For a second I thought about turning around, disappearing into the crowd. Then Mark looked up, caught my gaze across the square, and froze. Sarah followed his line of sight. Her face drained of color. I didn't move. Just stood there under the glowing lights, hands in my coat pockets, breath fogging in the cold air. Mark started walking toward me first. Sarah hesitated, then followed a few steps behind, like she wasn't sure she was allowed. When he reached me, he stopped a respectful distance away. Lena, Mark. Sarah hovered just behind his shoulder. She looked smaller than I remembered, thinner eyes shadowed. Hi, she whispered. I looked between them. 2 people who'd once been my entire world. Now, they were just people, flawed, human, hurting. I didn't know you'd be here, Mark said. I live here, I replied evenly. Same as you. Silence stretched. A child nearby laughed as a snowflake ornament spun on its string. Sarah spoke first, voice trembling. I'm leaving next week. For good. I just wanted to say, I'm sorry again, and I hope someday you can be happy. You deserve that. I studied her face. The woman who'd braided my hair before prom, who'd held my hand through chemo scares for my dad, who'd then taken the one person I thought would never leave. Part of me wanted to scream. Part of me wanted to hug her and tell her it was okay. Neither felt right. Instead I said, I hope you find whatever it was you were looking for, but it wasn't mine to give. Her chin quivered. She nodded once, turned, and walked away through the crowd. Mark watched her go, then looked back at me. I'm not asking for another chance, he said quietly. I just want you to know I'm getting help. And I'm sorry for all of it. I took a slow breath. The air tasted like pine and cinnamon. I believe you're sorry, but sorry doesn't undo 3 months of lies. I know. We stood there a long moment, the market noise swirling around us like a separate world. I'm keeping the ring, I said. Not to wear, just to remember what I almost settled for. He nodded, eyes glistening. Fair. Then he walked away too. I stayed until the lights started to dim and the vendors began packing up. Mom found me near the carousel, handed me a paper cup of hot cider. You okay? She asked. I sipped. The warmth spread through my chest. Getting there. Winter settled over the town like a heavy quilt, gray skies, early dark, the kind of cold that seeps into your bones and makes every breath visible. I kept the house warmer than usual, lights on in every room, even when I was only in one, as if brightness could chase away the echoes. The calendar flipped to December, then January. The wedding date we'd circled in red ink came and went without fanfare. I didn't cry that day. I baked instead Mom's shortbread recipe, the one Dad used to steal warm from the tray. I ate half the batch standing at the kitchen counter, crumbs falling like quiet snow. I started small routines to fill the spaces they'd left. Mornings, coffee on the porch wrapped in the wool throw Mark once called ridiculously oversized. I kept it anyway. Afternoons, longer walks along the river path behind the library, earbuds in, listening to podcasts about people rebuilding after loss. Evenings, book club at the store, where the women, mostly older, mostly wiser, ever pressed for details, but always left an extra chair empty beside mine, just in case. Jake checked in every few days, usually with takeout and terrible action movies. Distraction therapy, he called it. One night, he brought Thai same place Mark used to order from Mand. We ate straight from the cartons on the living room floor. You ever think about dating again? He asked. Chopsticks paused midair. I shook my head. Not yet. Maybe not ever. I'm still trying to remember who I was before him. He nodded, didn't push. Fair. But when you do, vet them harder than a background check. I'll do it for you if you want. I smiled. Deal. Mom came over more often too. She brought soup, casseroles, once an entire apple pie still warm from the oven. We sat at the kitchen table and talked about everything except the obvious, until one evening she set her teacup down and looked at me straight. You don't have to forgive them, Lena. Not today, not tomorrow, maybe not ever. But you do have to forgive yourself for trusting them. The words landed soft but deep. I'd been carrying a quiet shame that I hadn't seen it, hadn't been enough, hadn't been interesting or present or pretty enough to keep him. Hearing her name it out loud cracked something open. I keep thinking, if I'd noticed sooner. You would have hurt sooner, she finished gently. That's all. The pain was coming either way. The only difference is how long you carried it alone. I let that sit. Later, after she left, I pulled out the box of old photos from the hall closet. Pictures of the three of Uzme, Mark, Sarah at the lake house 2 summers ago. Arms around each other, sunburned noses, laughing so hard you could almost hear it through the paper. I looked at Sarah's smile, bright and unguarded, and felt a poignant hatred anymore, just sadness for what we'd all lost. I didn't tear them up. I put them back in the box, closed the lid, and slid it onto the highest shelf. Not forgotten, just archived. Mark sent one more message in February. Short, no pleading. I've finished the first round of therapy. I understand now that what I did wasn't about you not being enough, it was about me not knowing how to sit with my own emptiness. I'm not asking for anything. Just wanted you to know I'm trying to be better. For whoever comes after. And for the man I want to be, if our paths ever cross again. I didn't reply. But I didn't delete it either. Sarah left as promised. Her sister posted a photo on Facebook. New apartment. City lights behind her. Caption, fresh start. I scrolled past it without liking, without commenting. A few weeks later, a mutual friend mentioned she'd started seeing someone, a teacher. Steady job, no drama. I felt a flicker of something like relief. Not joy. Just the quiet knowledge that her story was moving forward without me in it. Spring arrived hesitant, like it wasn't sure it was welcome. Crocuses pushed through the mulch in the front bed, purple and stubborn. I started gardening again, something I'd abandoned after Dad died. Kneeling in the dirt, hands black with soil, felt like prayer. I planted lavender because the smell reminded me of summers at Grandma's, and bee balm because the hummingbirds needed somewhere to rest. One Saturday in April, I hosted book club at the house instead of the store. 6 women showed up with wine, cheese, and the new Anne Patchett. We talked about unreliable narrators, about how perspective changes everything. Halfway through, someone asked gently if I was writing again. I used to scribble short stories in college, nothing serious, just for myself. I've been thinking about it, I admitted. Do it, Mrs. Harlow said from the armchair. Even if it's messy. Especially if it's messy. That night, after everyone left, I sat at the kitchen table with a notebook and a cup of tea gone cold. I wrote the first sentence without thinking. I never imagined that a simple silk dress could unravel my entire world. The words stared back at me. Honest, raw. I kept going. By summer, I had 30 pages. Not a novel. Not yet. Just fragments, scenes, feelings, the smell of burnt hair and vanilla, the weight of a watch in my palm. Writing didn't fix anything, but it gave the pain somewhere to live outside my body. One evening in July, I walked to the river alone. The water was high from spring melt, rushing loud and silver under the bridge. I stood at the railing, ring still on my finger, not because I wanted him back, but because taking it off felt like erasing 3 good years, along with the bad ones. I twisted it slowly, felt the familiar grooves against my skin. Then I slipped it off. I didn't throw it. I placed it carefully on the wide stone ledge, open side up, like an offering. The sun caught the diamond and threw tiny rainbows across the concrete. I watched them dance for a long minute. A family biked past, Mom, Dad, 2 kids with training wheels. The little girl waved. I waved back. I left the ring there, not out of spite, not even closure, just release. On the walk home, the air smelled of cut grass and river mud. My steps felt lighter, not healed, not whole, but unburdened. The house waited with lights in every window. Inside, the notebook lay open on the table, pen resting in the crease. I sat down and turned to a fresh page, and I began again. And so here we are, at the quiet end of the story. I still live in that same little bungalow, though the walls have new paint, now soft sage green in the living room, because I needed something that felt like breathing room. The porch swing still creaks the same way when I sit there with my coffee on Sunday mornings, watching the neighborhood wake up slow. Sometimes, I catch myself smiling at nothing in particular, and it startles me how natural it feels again. Not every day is easy. Some mornings, the silence still carries his absence, like a bruise you forgot was there, but the bruise is fading. Most days it doesn't even ache. I finished that notebook eventually. Turned those messy pages into something bigger, a small collection of stories about women who lose pieces of themselves and find new ones in the wreckage. It's not published yet, maybe it never will be. But writing it taught me the most important thing: pain doesn't have to stay a wound forever. It can become scar-tissued, quieter, proof you survived. Mark and I never spoke again after that day at the holiday market. I heard through a friend of a friend that he moved to Tacoma last fall, took a job managing bigger projects, started running marathons. I don't hate him anymore. I don't wish him ill. I just wish him far away from the life I'm building. Sarah's still in Portland. From what I've glimpsed on the rare occasion someone mentions her name. She seems happy in the picture's new haircut. New city lights behind her. I don't look often, there's no need. What I carry now isn't anger or regret. It's clarity. I know what trust feels like when it's real, and I know what it feels like when it's borrowed. I know the difference between love that builds and love that borrows your light until you're half in shadow, and I know deep in the marrow of me that I am enough. Not because someone stayed, not because someone chose me, but because I chose myself when the choosing got hard. If there's a lesson here, it's this: betrayal doesn't always come with fireworks and shouting. Sometimes it slips in wearing your own dress, laughing in your own living room, smelling like the perfume you used to buy for special occasions. It wears a familiar face and speaks in a familiar voice until you almost convince yourself the fault is yours for not seeing it sooner. But seeing it late doesn't make you foolish. It makes you human. And healing. Healing doesn't look like revenge or a dramatic showdown in the rain. It looks like small, stubborn acts of care. Changing the locks, planting lavender, writing one honest sentence at a time, leaving a ring on a bridge railing, and walking home under your own power. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm saying it's possible. So I want to ask you something gentle, the way I wish someone had asked me on the hardest nights. If the people you trusted most turned around and used your love against you, would you have the courage to walk away and rebuild anyway? Or maybe the better question is, are you doing it right now, in some quiet corner of your own life? If this story touched something tender in you, if it made you remember your own version of the green dress, the late-night texts, the moment the mask slipped, then you're not alone. You never were. Thank you for sitting with me through this one. If it meant something, if it reminded you that you're stronger than the hurt, maybe leave a little note in the comments. Just one line. Tell me what you carried away from it. Or tell me what you're ready to let go of. And if you're still here, if you're still choosing yourself every single day, then I'm proud of you. Even if we've never met. I'll be back next time with another story. Until then, take care of your heart. It's been through enough. With love.